I'm Rijul from Global MBA at SPGen School of Global Management, and we have a very special guest for you today. So we are here to interview Mr. Pankaj Cadia, the Regional Director of Sales for India, Southeast Asia and ANZ. Let's go have a chat with him. Hello everyone, today we are here at Dolby Labs and we are here to have a chat with Mr. Pankaj Cadia. He's the Senior Regional Director for India, ANZ and Southeast Asia markets for Dolby Labs. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic, great. Thank you for having me.
Great, and so we can start off with the first question, sir. So my first question to you would be, how do you think that the demand for digital sound and audio has changed over the past few years? And how do you see the market changing over the past few years?
Right. I think it's changed very substantially, and if we've seen time and again since the 60s that the quality of experience drives consumption and drives value for the content, and so because whether it's entertainment experiences or other experiences one is seeking, the quality makes a big difference. So in the 60s when Ray Dolby, the founder of the company, started off and solved noise reduction, that really changed the dynamics in the music industry, the consumption, all of that changed because music was suddenly a lot more enjoyable without all the noise. And same we saw with surround sound when surround sound came to cinemas in the 80s and 90s. With Star Wars was one of the big movies. So again, that completely changed cinema watching, and people came back to the theaters. So, and we are now in another era of a major transition happening in the experience. So we are now actually moving into what we call immersive experiences. Now with immersive experiences, both whether it is video or audio, these experiences feel very lifelike, very so they try and replicate exactly how we see and hear things. So how we hear things in a real world environment, or how we see things when we look out of the window. So the technology makes that possible. And we've seen that for example, if you start watching HD television or 4K, it's really difficult to go back to something lower quality. So that the behavior is very driven by the experience itself.
So I think it's more about making everything feel very natural to the end customer, right? So that's the basic motive of the technologies and everything coming in.
And it's also about really it's about telling the story,
right?
So because whatever media we're consuming, the director of that content and the people working behind it are telling a story, and their goal is to tell the story in the best possible way and for audiences to connect with that story. So they're really creating a world and they want you to be a part of that world. So hence the immersive experiences play a big role. And what Dolby has done since we started the company, Ray Dolby started the company in 1965, is really help bring the content creator's vision to life and to replicate that same experience the way the director intends in whichever environment that content is being consumed.
So my next question to you would be, what kind of challenges do you face while expanding to markets, say Singapore or India, and how do you and your team basically handle it, relate to it, conquer it, and then move ahead?
Yeah, so if you look at Dolby's business, it's very unique in the sense that what we're really trying to do is build ecosystems around our technology. And we look at this ecosystem in three important steps. The one is the content creation step. So wherever content generation, content creation is relevant in whichever market. So for example, in India, it's a very relevant exercise initiative for us where content consumption and content generation is very local. So Bollywood movies and Indian television content, Indian sports, cricket for example, is the predominant content that is consumed. The second is the delivery of that content. Now that delivery could happen through a paid TV service like a DTH or a cable or an OTT network, so various ways of delivery, or a Blu-ray disc, so different ways of that delivery. And the third is the consumption, the actual playback of that content. What we're doing is we are building solutions for this end-to-end, enabling this end-to-end ecosystem, and then going out and actually enabling the ecosystem. Now, what typically happens is there's a lot of chicken and egg in this process in terms of which comes first. You have the early adopters who want to jump in early, but still, whether it is infrastructure challenges, it's manpower know-how challenges, or it is commercial model, business model, and sometimes just the technical solutions not existing, and so we run into these several challenges. Sometimes it can be even regulatory or government in terms of countries making the switch from analog to digital television. I mean, that's actually happening a lot in Southeast Asia right now, where terrestrial television is actually undergoing a very major transition from being analog to being digital, and these are very complex transitions, and they change the industry at a fundamental level. So there are all these several challenges that we run into, and they are very different in different markets, in different situations. The one thing that does require is a lot of persistence, because this doesn't get solved in a day, and you have to believe in it, you have to be focused on it, and some of it takes years to resolve and build. But then when it does happen, it's very satisfying.
That's the driving factor for innovation, I guess.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question to you would be, how do you see competition currently, and how do you think Dolby gets a competitive edge in terms of marketing, in terms of any other technology, innovation, and growth?
I mean, definitely we have competition, and we have great companies who compete and bring great technologies to market, and we compete very respectfully with them. Dolby has always had a very strong principle of leading generously, and what we mean by that is we really working towards the development of the overall industry, and then so everybody involved in that. As the industry grows, everybody benefits, and we're a company which is very driven by innovation, so we are constantly bringing new technologies to market. I think what makes Dolby really unique is, I think, one is definitely the technology. I think that the power of the technology, the experience that we are able to bring, and the mindset that we have to solve the full problem rather than just doing point. We don't do any point solutions. We're really thinking about the end-to-end problem and how to solve that. So that makes us very unique, because there are not too many others who are doing that end-to-end problem solving. And having that belief and having that focus to work on it on a sustained basis and develop the whole ecosystem and solve all the ecosystem problems. I find that is a very unique attribute to Dolby, and it's a mindset that we have. So when in a Dolby meeting, when complex problems come up, people get very excited. So like, okay, great, now we're going to have a complex problem to solve. And so maybe we don't like solving simple things. So the higher the complexity, and I think that's what drives all of us in the company. Whether even we are salespeople, we get very excited when there's some complexity to be solved.
Right, sir. It was great talking to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.